Hello, and welcome to this training module, developed in the framework of the Go-To-Vet project. Today, we'll focus on a critical issue affecting integration and employment pathways for newcomers in Europe. The barriers that third country nationals, or TCN, face in accessing vocational education. Training systems, known as VET. You might think that education is a universal right, but in practice, many third country nationals, especially refugees, asylum seekers, and migrants encounter several barriers when trying to enter or benefit from vocational education and training opportunities. But before we begin, a quick word about how we gathered the data behind this lesson. As part of Go-To-Vet, we conducted a large-scale survey between September and December 2024 across 7 European countries: Italy, Sweden, Spain, Germany, Greece, Belgium, and Cyprus. The survey involved over 500 participants, including both vocational education and training operators and third country nationals. In addition, peer-to-peer consultations were held with key stakeholders from NGOs to employment agencies to identify the most pressing challenges in each local context. So, everything you'll hear today comes directly from real experiences, real voices, and real situations on the ground. Let's dive in. One of the most reported issues across almost every country relates to the legal and bureaucratic hurdles that third country nationals face. In countries like Germany and Spain, operators emphasized that legal status often determines whether someone can even start a vocational training course. Work permits, residence documents, and even visa conditions can block access altogether. Even when access is technically allowed, the complexity of the administrative procedures creates a second layer of exclusion. Imagine being new to a country and having to navigate unfamiliar documents, deadlines, and institutions, often in a language you don't fully understand. And then there's qualification recognition. Many third country nationals arrive with years of experience or degrees that go unrecognized. Without proper validation systems, people end up repeating training or being directed into low-skilled paths, despite having high potential. Language is, unsurprisingly, a foundational challenge, and not just general language, but vocational and workplace-specific language too. In our survey, language barriers were reported as a top issue by both third country nationals and vocational education and training providers. For instance, in Belgium, 89% of operators saw it as a critical obstacle. In Germany, 85%. But what's interesting is that the perception gap is real. Fewer third country nationals reported language as a major issue in some contexts, possibly because many have developed informal strategies to cope, or perhaps because they've already adapted their expectations. Nevertheless, without proper language training integrated into vocational education and training, participation becomes extremely limited. It's not just about understanding lessons, it's about filling forms, doing internships, interacting with trainers, and passing exams. Let's talk money. Even when vocational education and training is free, hidden costs like transport, childcare, books, or lost working hours can make it unaffordable. In Greece, Germany, and Cyprus, over 60% of operators pointed to financial barriers as a key concern, and third country nationals confirmed this in the survey. Training might be offered, but if it means losing income, it's often not a viable choice. In some countries, we also found that unemployment benefits are more financially attractive than entering training. So, third country nationals must sometimes choose between stability and opportunity. One recurring solution? Offering subsidies, public transport passes, and stipends for those in training. But these are not yet widespread. Here, we're talking about the internal system of vocational education and training providers. Do staff have the right intercultural skills? Are programs designed with flexibility? Are there clear pathways from training to employment? Unfortunately, the answer is often no. Operators reported a lack of coordination between training centres, employment services, and social support systems. Third country nationals often get bounced from office to office without clear guidance. And there's another issue, a shortage of trained personnel who understand migration, trauma, or intercultural communication. In countries like Cyprus and Greece, over 60% of operators mentioned weak institutional capacity and fragmented support systems. Now let's talk about the less visible but deeply influential obstacles. Cultural differences in expectations, gender roles, learning styles, or even perceptions of authority can influence how third country nationals engage with training. For example, in Sweden and Italy, providers pointed to challenges faced by women, particularly in balancing childcare, cultural expectations, and learning commitments. In some contexts, discrimination was also reported either directly or through more subtle forms, like stereotyping, low expectations, or exclusion. And what about trauma? Many third country nationals come from conflict zones or have been through dangerous migration journeys. Without psychosocial support, it's hard to stay focused on training, especially when facing isolation or stress. Imagine trying to access a service you don't even know exists. That's exactly the case for many third country nationals. A lack of clear, multilingual and accessible information on training opportunities, enrollment processes or career pathways is a widespread problem. In Cyprus, 65% of operators saw this as a major barrier. In Spain, 52%. Often, guidance services are not tailored. They assume a level of familiarity that many newcomers simply don't have. And vocational education and training programs may not be promoted in the right spaces, such as community centres, migrant associations, or religious groups. In an increasingly digital world, access to computers, apps, and digital literacy is essential, but many third country nationals are left behind. During consultations, it emerged that digital tools used to apply for training, manage appointments, or even follow classes are often not available in third country nationals' languages, and without support, many simply give up. So, providing training in digital skills and simplifying interfaces is crucial to building an inclusive vocational education and training system. All these barriers are interconnected. Language influences access to information. Financial stress affects mental health. Legal status impacts motivation. But here's the good news. We now have a clearer picture thanks to the Go2VT research of what needs to change. As a professional working with third country nationals, you are part of the solution. Your role in providing guidance, creating welcoming environments, advocating for flexible training formats, and building cross-sector collaborations is essential to make vocational education and training more inclusive, accessible, and fair in a way that third country nationals can build a future, contribute to their host society, and gain independence. Vocational education and training may really be a powerful tool for integration. If you're curious to dive deeper, we warmly encourage you to read the 2 key reports produced in this project mapping report on barriers and lessons learnt from peer consultations, attached as additional resources to this section. They offer detailed data, insights, and country-by-country case studies that can enrich your understanding and inspire new ideas for your own work. After this being said, in the next lecture, we'll explore the national frameworks for vocational education and training and third country nationals' access to them. Thank you for your attention and for being part of this change.